for this, man, is to kind of just make it as kind of laid back and informal as we can compared to our previous chat. I admittedly, like, once you put out your episode, kind of talking about the record, everything that's happened for you in the last couple of months, and kind of like putting Spirit Adrift to bed, I was like, okay, Nate's got it like fresh from the source. I've got to try and find like the postscript, the addendum, the
Sure.
bits
Yeah,
and
and
pieces that we.
there's
The,
plenty more to talk about for sure. I
okay,
mean, I'm kind of back in a position too where I'm able to do my podcast a little bit more frequently than what I've been doing, which is
perfect.
essentially like not at all, right? So, I was planning on doing episodes about like going through, I don't know, 15 records that inspired the new Spirit Adrift album and that sort of thing, and then doing like the corny stuff like the vinyl unboxing when it shows up, because the
Yeah,
surprise drop, it's a little strange. You know, I for whatever my naivete thought we could like just put the album out and everything hits on one day,
yes,
physical and digital.
yeah,
But because of needing to distribute to record stores, like physical copies to record stores and all that sort of stuff, there kind of logistically has to be a gap between the digital release and the physical release, which
yeah.
actually there's some benefits to that because it almost, instead of just having one release date and then it's over, there's almost kind of like a
A little staggered rollout
slow.
of stuff.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
just like a steady opportunity to keep promoting the album, which is kind of nice.
For all intents and purposes, like Spirit Adrift, the project is dead. And we're kind of in this post mortem period where you've played the final show, you've put out the final record, and now it's kind of just letting people absorb the impact of that kind of finality and ending. Um, so before we get into the record, because like you mentioned, there's lots of stuff we can get into there, I want to talk about the final show because I feel like you touched on this in your episode, but I kind of just want to like ask how you were feeling in that moment. Up on stage playing. I had a look at the set list, like maybe like 7 or 8 songs. Uh, what was it like being on stage in that moment and being like, "This is the final set that I'll play for this project. This is the final song that I'll play live for this project." Talk to me about what you were thinking when you were doing that.
Yeah, I didn't experience it that way at all.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, I didn't. And maybe that's because this decision is not like the decision that I made to like end the project and have the last show and everything. It might, to anyone other than myself, seem like it's kind of like a spontaneous, erratic decision, but it's something I've been considering for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. Like I almost thought that
Sure.
Ghost at the Gallows was going to be the last album.
Yeah, we
So
we
it's
talked
something I've
about
been
that
talking.
last time you were on the show. Like you were talking about, like death is a huge influence on this record. I feel like this might be the last one. I don't really know. Like, so yeah, you've had this percolating in your mind for years now.
Right, right. So more than anything, not during the show, but like after the show was over, it was just a sense of like relief and accomplishment, major accomplishment, which I don't feel all that often just because I'm so like on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing.
Sure.
But that day, the day of our last show was such a great day. You can ask my bandmates. I'm never, over the last couple years, I'm never like, we have to play that or we have to do that tour. You know what I mean? Like it takes a
Yeah.
lot to get me to do that. But when I saw that particular tour announced and saw that it was coming through San Antonio, I was like, we have to play that show.
Right.
Because the New Orleans stuff was such a huge deal to me growing up. Like it was so influential, even just, as a kid growing up in Oklahoma. But then I started going to New Orleans all the time. It's like a really long and boring story, but I ended up becoming friends with Jimmy Bauer when I was like 17. Went and saw I Hate God down there, like first show post Katrina, stayed with him. And then it became like this sort of, I don't know, almost like a ritual. Anytime that any of those bands that I liked would play, I would go to New Orleans. That was like my thing for a while there when I was young, and all those guys were introducing me to bands like Trouble and Carnivore and even like Free and Bad Company and stuff like that. And Mike from I Hate God was kind of more of the underground punk stuff. He was turning me on to Blast and Negative Approach and stuff like that.
Fuck yeah.
So it was just like New Orleans was a huge influence on me. And then, Spirit Adrift toured with Crowbar a few years ago, became really, really close with them. Those guys are amazing people, really good friends, good people, great band, obviously. So it was just, it was just the perfect full circle thing. Like I couldn't have, if you were writing like a script for a movie, I couldn't have written a better like closing chapter for it. We spent the whole day together with those guys. If anybody's spent any time around Jimmy Bauer, he's like the quickest, driest, like shit talker, stand-up comedian almost, and it was just all day with that, just kind of reminiscing. And yeah, it made me feel like I was 17 again. I wasn't sure what to expect going on stage. We were the second band that played, and we were all kind of aware of like the TikTok thing that's going on with Crowbar. They're like bigger than they've ever been, and it's because
crazy.
of Gen Z.
It's crazy.
It's really and I talked to Kirk for a while about that and just told him like, man, every once in a while something randomly good will happen like this that's justified and earned, and I'm like, you've earned this, man. It's not random. Sometimes it's random and just there's no substance to it when stuff blows up like that. But anyway, like when you're playing a show like that and you're support and not the headliner, historically it's been kind of hard to figure out how the crowd is going to receive you,
Yes. Yeah.
because they're all there to see Crowbar, and we were kind of aware of that. And I don't know, I just didn't worry about it too much. But when we got on stage, it was like, it became clear instantaneously that these kids were there to, not just for Crowbar, but to like have an experience and maybe hear a new band that they're not familiar with. And I think I said it on my podcast, like even the house music that was playing between bands, whether it was Alice in Chains or Pantera or whatever, Lamb of God, like these kids were air guitaring like accurately. They were singing really loud and in key, like all the words to everything. And they were, I've had situations before where we were support for a band that people were really rabid about and they didn't really give a shit about us, They're just kind of maybe polite at best. But these kids were something different, man. It gave me a lot of hope, really, for like the younger generation. It was one of the best shows we've ever played and like one of the best audience receptions we've ever had.
So great to kind of go out on that note. I want to kind of interrogate the the decision to play that show a little bit. When I saw on social media that you announced that show specifically as the final Spirit Adrift show, I had kind of like two like parallel trains of thought. The first one was just like, "That's so sick! I'm so stoked for Nate. That's like the perfect show for him to play and for the project to kind of go out on." And then the other train of thought was just kind of like, it's crazy for a band as celebrated and prolific as yours to play a final show as support for two other bands and to not, I guess, kind of fall into perhaps like the egocentric position of like, we need to do a headliner, we need to like go out on top, you know what I mean? And I'm wondering if you could unpack that for me a little bit. Like, was there any real kind of hesitation on your part of being like, oh, maybe we should do a headliner, like we need to kind of have a big set to kind of play stuff from all the records or anything? Or were you like, no, this is the perfect way to do
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, honestly.
it?
I'm a fan. I'm just a fan, period. Like
Yep.
always will be a fan. I've never I never even ran into uh, anything like this until I moved to a big city where it's like people are careful to not fanboy out on their heroes too hard.
Yeah.
Like I never experienced that until I moved to Phoenix. And I was like, what's wrong with these people? They're like scared to tell Kirk Winstein that he's like their hero. Like I don't even understand that, you know.
Yeah. Sincerity
And I
is
mean there's
a
a
is a rare thing.
yeah, there's a right and a wrong way to do that, obviously.
Sure.
But you know, last year we played a headlining set in Austin, uh, and we promoted it as the only show we were playing in North America that year because we thought we were going to tour Europe.
Yep.
Didn't end up getting to do that, but I could have easily just let that be the last show. Like with
Mm.
everything I have going on, it was it was a challenge even just playing one show. The last show that we played, like it was a real challenge, and there were moments where I was like, "Oh man, I shouldn't be doing this. Like I have too much on my plate." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but I like playing good shows. I don't care if we're headlining. Like my attitude is, uh, if we're playing second and there's two bands after us, that gives us a chance to like, even if they're my friends, especially if they're my friends, like that'll give us a chance to like kick their ass so hard that they're completely demoralized and they have like a hard time getting through their set, you know? So
Yeah.
I like it. I don't really care if we headline or play first or whatever. I just all that, yeah, like you said, is just ego. Like if the show is amazing, then who cares if you played first or last or whatever?
Totally.
And the show is amazing, and I knew it was going to be amazing when I saw it announced. And we even kind of did the same thing last year. We did like that little 3 show run when we released Ghost at the Gallows.
Hmm.
And again, that was something deeply personal to me. It was Paul Bear and Wake from Arkansas, two of my
Incredible.
favorite
Yeah.
bands, but also like my family. Those all those people are literally like family to me, you know, and I grew up playing music with all of them in Arkansas. And I remember talking to Joe from Paul Bear, and you know, the bill was gonna be Wake opening and then us and then Paul Bear.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not playing after Wake. I'm just like, I'm not doing it. I've
Yeah.
seen them enough to know that like I don't feel comfortable, A, because they'll blow any band off the stage pretty much on earth, but also just having I don't know, just like idolize them just as much as I idolize Black Sabbath or something. I was just like, we'll play first. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's stuff that goes deeper than like trying to look cool on a flyer or whatever.
Yeah. 100%. I think let's kind of touch on the record now. So we've kind of been talking about like this, I guess, like denial of ego, or kind of like ignoring parts of the ego that people think, musicians, and particularly like maybe metal musicians might have. Being able to take a project like Spirit Adrift and control the factors of kind of birth and death to be able to kind of decide when the project ends, and kind of understanding what that finality means, I think is like really kind of crucial to understanding who you are as a songwriter. And I'm hoping to kind of unpack that a little bit later in the show. But talk to me about the initial kind of decision, because I know you've been writing material for this record for some time. You've spoken about it on your own show. But at what point did you realize that this would be the final record? And then how did that moment change kind of writing, recording, and releasing the record?
That's a great question. Um, yeah, I knew. Uh, we talked about like Ghosts at the Gallows, how I was kind of like, this might be the last one, you know.
Yeah,
So this one, I knew from the beginning that if I was going to write another record, it'd be the last one.
yeah.
Like if I'm picking up a guitar with the intention of writing Spirit Adrift material, that this is going to be the last one. So it kind
Mm.
of uh I don't know, I think about like Friday the 13th, the final chapter, you know. They everyone involved in that movie were led to believe and were made to understand by anybody that was in a position of authority on the film that it was the last one, you know.
Yeah,
So I think if you go into something knowing that, maybe it gives you a little bit of an extra motivation to try to make it like the most powerful one, you know.
yes,
Uh it did for me for sure. I mean, that was the goal from the beginning, was like, okay, I was looking back at the whole catalog and I'm like, what do I really like about what I've done in the past? And what do I think is okay? Or, you know, really kind of analyzing it, and also with the like clear intention in mind of making it the heaviest album that Spirit Adrift has ever released. And I've said in other interviews, you know, that's within the confines of a band that's like relatively melodic when it comes to metal
yes,
bands or whatever. So I didn't want to go like, I didn't want death metal vocals or anything like weird and outside of the realm of Spirit Adrift like that. But I did want to push it to the absolute limit of uh what what was the heaviest thing we could do but still made sense, you know.
for sure. Yeah.
So that was all like very intentional from the beginning. And I was really kind of I've talked about this a lot too, the Venn diagram. So like the
Hmm.
two the two first subgenres of metal that I got into were doom and thrash. And looking back at our catalog, I think that's where the best material came from, was some kind of yeah, finding the connective tissue between old doom bands and old thrash bands and making
100%.
something, yeah, making something kind of like new-ish and unique-ish out of that connective tissue.
Completely agree. And I spoke to this a little bit when we had you on the show last time, but the record that really got my attention and kind of drew me into the project was Curse of Conception. And I feel like, even though I love all of the records that came after, like that one is still very special to me, because it arrived at a time when I was kind of like forming my own connection to old school doom and old school thrash. And I came across your project and I was like, here's this guy who understands why those two things are great in isolation and is attempting to do the synthesis that I've wondered what could be if someone like fused those two worlds together. And I think you achieved that on that record, and then you've just iterated on that through every kind of successive kind of project. So
That's awesome,
I
man. Yeah, no, I wasn't even aware of that at the time I was writing Curse. I had this goofy idea that just to entertain my own self, um, that I wanted to like remake Master of Puppets, basically, as far as the sequencing goes and like the
yeah,
type of songs. So like track 4 ballad, whatever. And at first I was like breaking down every song like structurally and following it to a T. So
yeah,
if there's like 3.5 of a pre-chorus, I do that, you know, and I got
okay.
really sick of that and I kind of gave up. But beyond that, I wasn't aware really that I was like uh of what I was doing as far as like, yeah, finding that middle ground between two genres that at first glance maybe don't have that much in common, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas this time I was like very acutely aware of that. I mean, I even like, I'm a dork. I made a Venn diagram. I
Hell
made like
yeah.
a
Vision
three-way,
board. Yeah.
yeah, Venn diagram. And I think the first one I made, there was like sludge in there too. So like Crowbar was in there and stuff like that. And then I just kept whittling it down. I think the first one had like Merciful Fate and Death and some other stuff. But then when I really got down to it, it's just like, yeah, Trouble, Saint Vitus, Pentagram, Black Sabbath, Candlemass, Solitude Eternus, big one, big one. That's one circle, right? And then the
Yeah.
other circle is first 4 Metallica, first 2 Testament, early Slayer, um, Bonded by Blood. Dude, I was working out yesterday. There's a YouTube channel that has like all the old Headbangers Ball stuff.
Oh,
Some
sick.
guy in South America, yeah. And this Overkill song came on. It's from their record Horoscope, which came out in
Okay.
like 91, I think. And it's the first song on that record. It's called Coma, but it's like these really heavy breakdowns, but there's clean like jazz chorus. So think like Cemetery Gates or like Suicidal Tendencies, You Can't Bring Me Down intro.
Okay. Yeah.
There's like the clean guitar going on over the top of like the heavy stuff, and that was kind of like a staple of like yeah, thrash metal getting into the early 90s, and like doom metal is like or not even juxtaposing, but having those like heavy guitars and those clean guitars going on at the same
Mm,
time. So that was one of many things that I found that those two genres have in common.
yeah. Right.
The thrash bands didn't really start doing it until the early 90s, but when I heard that yesterday, I was like, "Yep, that's exactly the Venn diagram that I was trying to achieve." You know?
Which is kind of funny because that's like you said, 91. So like this kind of synthesis is something that people outside of yourself have been kind of like whittling away at for decades. But I think your project and your songwriting really does epitomize that synthesis. And I think on this final record, Infinite Illumination, you really do kind of like go back to the raw Venn diagram that the project kind of started with. It's definitely the heaviest record. There's some really kind of like thrashy, intricate guitar playing on that record, which is what people would expect from you, of course. Talk to me about the songwriting process for the record. What was it like to kind of, I guess, troll through all of the demos, all of the ideas, and kind of with this intentionality that we've been talking about, understanding that this will be the final record, evaluating what you're putting together and being like, this is good enough, this isn't good enough. We finally have the bedrock of material that'll make the final record.
Yeah, every riff was a gut reaction, and in the
Mm,
past, I haven't had enough time to do that. In the past, it's kind of like, all right, I need to get this like wrapped up. You know what I mean? So there's been songs on previous albums where it was like almost like just showing up to work. Like I would
yeah,
show up and
sure.
like I have to write a song, and it doesn't mean they're bad or not as good as the other ones, but it's just kind of a
It's a different
different like
kind of
birthing.
intention, right? Like different
Yeah,
kind of parameters to what you're doing.
yeah, and it just a different like birthing process, I would call it. Whereas this one, I had no time restrictions at all.
Mm,
Um, everybody's always telling me not to rush it. And I don't think I ever have rushed anything, but this was the first one where there was just no, not even internal pressure to like finish the record or have any kind of timeline on it or anything like that. So that was different. That did allow me to, there's not 1 second of the record that didn't come from like that place of goosebumps or come from the ether or, you know, the subconscious or whatever. Where you get stuff that gives you goosebumps. That's the stuff you want.
Of
Most
course.
albums, it'll be like half of it's that and half of it's kind of stuff that you sat and thought about and worked on, you know. This one, I think it's like 100% from that like mysterious place, you know.
Yeah.
Whether that was like my sleep schedule was really bizarre the whole time. I've talked about this a little bit. I don't think any interviews have come out where I talked about this, but I would sleep for like a few hours and wake up at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning.
Okay.
And I would have these crazy ideas, whether it was lyrics or a guitar part or whatever. A lot of nights I would wake up at 3 in the morning and go into the other room, pick up my guitar, write a riff, like record it into my phone. So there was a lot of that. There was alcohol involved for the first time ever.
Yeah.
In a Spirit Adrift writing process. And you know, I've been quoting this a lot, the Ernest Hemingway thing of like write drunk and edit sober, you know.
Yeah.
So there was
I've tried that method. It's
yeah,
it's worth giving it a go. But
there was some of that, you know. I have like a recording set up literally in a closet, and so I would go in there some nights and do some work and wake up and revisit it and be like, there's a whole song done. Like I did bass, I did program the drums. Like what is happening here? I think Window Within was one of those. Buried in the Shadow of the Cross. So there was just, it was a lot of trying to pull from that place that like every artist and musician and people like Bob Dylan will tell you, like, we don't understand what it is. We have no idea like how to make it happen. It just happens sometimes. You can't force it. You just, and you almost can't even kind of like sit around and consciously try to let it happen. It's just almost completely out of your control, you know. But I've always found that that's the coolest, most powerful stuff. Take your place, so helpless to protect you, so numb and can't connect to.
I'm glad you touched on this. So when the surprise drop happened, because I've been following along on your show, like I knew that you were working on a record. I knew that there was new stuff coming. You obviously had the non-album single, which came out like a couple of weeks beforehand. So like I knew stuff was coming, but when the album dropped, it quite literally was a surprise. And I was like, oh shit, it's out. And I went to Bandcamp. I was immediately kind of like reading through the online equivalent of liner notes, and I was going through and I was looking at all the like contributions to individual songs, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. David Lynch via the hypnagogic kind of portal, and I was like, I think I understand what Nate is kind of saying here, but I'm going to need to get him on the show to kind of dig into that. So, I guess what you're talking about here is this this kind of like witching hour flow state that happens when you wake up and you kind of interrupt your sleep schedule. And I've done a little bit of research on this in my academic work that like it is like a neurological state just after waking or just as you're going to sleep, where like your brain waves start to like you're having like different brainwave patterns, and it does lead to a bit more looser free association.
Yeah,
And like
what it feels like to me is that you are conscious in the sense that you have motor function, but
Hmm.
you're not so conscious that it's blocking out the subconscious, which is where I
Yep,
think all the cool stuff comes from. I'm
that's
so
right.
glad you asked about that though, because it's right after David Lynch died. Um,
Right.
I even did a podcast episode, so I have receipts, as the kids say. If
Let's
you
go.
go back and watch the episode I did on David Lynch,
Okay.
I said something about like as a tribute to him, I want to make a song where it's like there's a perfectly safe, like uh traditionally structured song
Hmm.
that ends and it's like just a regular, straightforward song. But instead of it ending, I want it to take the most dramatic, almost like surrealistic left hand turn
Right.
out of complete nowhere. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, so I have receipts of that being a goal
Mm.
of mine when David Lynch died. I wanted to do that as like a tribute to him, And so the song White Death at one point ended um like after all the guitar solos and stuff. The fast
Yeah.
after the fast stuff
Yeah.
would and it there's the end of a song, right?
Yeah.
That's a perfectly straightforward song, like intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, repeat, and then a solo section and it's over, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I had a dream and David Lynch was doing something. I can't remember. He was in the dream. But I woke up and I got that like down, 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 down. And so the whole rest of the song from that point forward, I kind of like credit to David Lynch,
Yeah. It's
And that's why
beautiful.
there's all that like psychedelic ki- uh uh, unnerving, like crazy sounds going on. I wanted it to really be yeah, just like a shock, like a left hand weird shocking thing. And then that led to like a lot of people's favorite part of the whole album, which is like the Fenriz would call it like the slow thrash breakdown after that doom
Yeah.
stuff, like the mosh part, like
That's
the
right.
one Spirit Adrift part where I could see people like crowd killing.
Yeah. It's definitely my favorite part on the record. And I think when I reached out to you over email, I was literally in my first playthrough of the album. And I was like going through track by track, and White Death hit. And I was like, this is fucking crazy. I was like, Nate's really on one with this. And I could just tell, I was like, he's kind of tapped into something here in ways that you've alluded to on the show before. And yeah, I just think it's a very special track and kind of really does epitomize what I love about your songwriting and what I love about the project in general. So it kind of
Thanks,
it
man.
oh, you're very welcome. But it was the catalyst for me to be like, all right, I'm gonna get him back on the show. We've got to dig into this a little bit. So
Hell yeah.
um yeah. I think like talk to me about the kind of lyrical influence on the record, and I'll put a pin in that to say that one of the things that I thought was very funny about the episode on your show talking about the record was all of the misattributions about your supposed Christianity or like turn to Christianity and people's just complete inability to differentiate between like religiosity and spirituality and not really understanding that like Nate can be a spiritual person and can talk about spiritual issues, but not be a Christian and not need to prescribe to any kind of like dogmatic view of Christianity. But we can get into
Yeah.
that a little bit later. But yeah, talk to me about the lyrical focus for this record.
Nuance is tough, man. Nuance is like
It's
really,
rough.
really tough. And that's why I prefer this kind of stuff. It's long form.
Yes.
Even if you cut clips for Instagram or whatever, I think it's better than like the traditional thing, which is having a conversation like this that's really long.
Yep.
And then due to like uh limitations on word count or like editors requirements on websites or whatever, you have to cut it down to like a certain amount of words.
Oh yeah.
And I'm
Pull
like,
pull
what?
quotes is the industry term.
I'm
Like
trying
go
to
through the
make every
transcript.
yeah, I'm trying to make every word that I say count. So
Yes.
like if you're cutting if you're cutting out like multiple sentences in the middle of like a thought, obviously it's going to not be that accurate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm the day the record comes out, I'm finding out that I'm a practicing Christian from other people on the internet.
I saw those headlines and I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like,
Yeah,
I don't think
and
that's true, but whatever. Okay.
well, I don't know if it is or not. Like that's the tricky thing, and
Mm,
it's again, it's nuance. I've said this in interviews, and they didn't really illustrate this or convey this accurately. But I've been really really drawn to the Jesus stuff
mm,
lately, um, and I think there's a lot of people out there who claim Christianity who are doing the opposite of what Jesus would do.
yes. Yes.
Right. So it's kind of that's why I'm a little reticent to be like, I am a Christian because I don't want to be associated with certain people who are like blowing up children
Mhm.
in the name of Jesus or whatever they're doing, you know.
There's a bit of
Um,
baggage there. Yes.
yeah, yeah. But the lyrics are intentionally, yeah, like fire and brimstone. I was reading Revelation a lot, which I grew up reading the Bible, going to church and stuff like that, and it really didn't click with me. And it wasn't really until I got in recovery where I started kind of, they say stuff in recovery about like, instead of like having contempt prior to investigation, why don't you try to be quick to see where religious people are right
Right.
instead of
Okay.
where they're wrong? Like it works for a lot of people. Um, and so that kind of like opened my mind up a little more. And I've always been really fascinated with, all different types of spirituality. I feel like science and religion are kind of trying to answer the same big questions, right?
Yeah, in many
So I've
ways, for sure.
bounced around and yeah, just lately I've been kind of more interested in the Bible and especially like the New Testament. Like I said, reading Revelation really just for the imagery and it's psychedelic, it's violent, it's scary, it's intense, and mainly, honestly, like I think the biggest sin as an artist is to do what everybody else is doing.
Mm,
I think the biggest sin is to be like boring.
yes.
Um, so I was trying to think of like and I almost kind of like got the idea from Argo Slint.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so like sometimes I think about that band a lot because their music is so good, but obviously like the lyrical content is like incredibly racist, right? But I almost wonder if those guys were like, what's left that's shocking in metal?
Yes. Yep.
Not defending them, but just it's something I think about. Like, okay, well, all these extreme metal bands that talk about Satanism and violence and really gore and all this evil stuff, but none of them have talked about like the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade, right? So
Yep.
maybe they just saw like an opening in there to be scary and
Yeah.
upsetting and extreme, which is what metal's all about.
Yeah, for sure.
So I almost thought like, all right, you have a band like Deicide that's talking about we're gonna kill all the Christians and your God is dead and all this stuff. And I'm like, all right, what if you flipped that and you made an album that was like violent and hateful and righteous in the other direction, i.e., if you're not Christian, we're gonna kill you.
Yeah.
And your God is false and our God is real. And I don't I'm not aware of there being metal bands that have done that. So it just seemed like an appealing idea just to be different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And be kind of like, um, yeah, what is there that's left to be shocking in a way that like Morbid Angel was shocking back in the day, where people are like, is this person okay? You know, I saw an opening in that
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point that, like, for a genre that has for so long functioned off the idea of transgression and kind of like pushing people's boundaries, kind of instrumentally, lyrically, whatever, it does kind of eat its own tail, so to speak, especially now when everything is so heavily commodified that the market incentive is to do the thing that's trending, to do the thing that's popular. So
Exactly, man. Yeah,
you'll
I felt like it's the most unsafe thing in the world as a metal band to
yeah,
make like a fire and brimstone Christian album. But if you look at it, like Cannibal Corpse has written all the different ways that you can mutilate a human body,
yes,
right? I mean, how many more songs and different like descriptive ways of doing that at a certain point it's just boring. It's
yeah,
boring. Deicide has written all the different ways of being blasphemous against Jesus or whatever. And it's like, it was shocking in 1989. Is it shocking now? Like,
yeah. I don't know.
absolutely not. It's just like
No,
really boring. So how do you shock people in the metal world? Now you say, if you're not Christian, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
yeah.
That's shocking.
You basically took the idea of like, what if Striper, but like heavy and like actually had riffs, and I
Yeah,
like
and
that
they're
idea.
not
Yeah.
trying to save you. They want you to die.
They want you to die. They want to kill you. um, let's kind of close off the main chat here a little bit. So, like, speaking of death, like now that Spirit Adrift is functionally dead and the record has been out, people like myself are listening to it and kind of like getting an understanding of the closure of the band. How are you feeling about it in terms of people's reception to the record and kind of knowing that there is a final chapter to that discography? Have you allowed yourself to have like a reflexive or evaluative moment, or are you still just kind of like waiting for that to happen?
Man, I've been having the like uh navel gazing introspective, like what does this all mean to me thing for like years. So
Okay.
it's that, yeah, that's like all good. But how I'm feeling now, like there's never been a more successful Spirit Adrift record by any metric. Like to me,
It's
it's my
crazy.
favorite one by far. Artistically speaking, aesthetically, like the art, the whole package, the music, the lyrics, the whole idea. I feel like I've never nailed something so like dead center bullseye artistically the way that I wanted to,
Yeah.
as much as I did with this. Uh, and then, this is not why you make art or music or whatever, but it feels good to have objective metrics by which you can measure how successful your thing is. And like we were the
Yeah.
number one selling vinyl on Bandcamp for a while.
That's
Um,
sick.
yeah,
Congratulations.
insane. Never happened before ever. And that's like regardless of genre. And when I looked at it, somebody pointed it out to me. When I looked at it, it was Us number one and Neurosis number two. They're one of my favorite,
That's
like
crazy.
one of the most important bands of my entire life. And I will say
That
their
new
record had been
record,
out.
that new
Oh,
record
it's
is
great.
insane. Oh,
It's one of their best ones. Top
so good.
five, maybe.
Ugh.
Yeah. And both of us are, I think, still like number one and two in metal
Mm.
on Bandcamp, and we're both still in the top five, regardless of genre, which is just like totally surreal. All the like we did a Decibel Magazine exclusive variant that sold out within the first day, within like hours.
Crazy.
all the $20 spin variants are gone. So he's having to like order like a second pressing and stuff like that. And it's just, that's what matters to me. Like reviews and people's comments about it and stuff like that on the internet is whatever, whether it's good or bad. Reading that stuff, reading good reviews of yourself is just as dangerous and unnecessary as reading terrible reviews of yourself. You know,
Yeah, I could see
it's
that.
all
Yeah.
just it's all dangerous. You know,
Mm.
but if people are, especially now with the way things are, like economically for folks, if people are paying money to buy it, that means it's good.
Yeah.
You know,
No, I
it's that
agree.
simple to me.
I
Yeah.
completely agree. Yeah. Uh, I guess kind of like now with the record out, with Spirit Adrift kind of finally put to rest. You talked about this a little bit on the show, but you're not completely done with music per se. You've got other kind of avenues that you want to explore. Do you have any idea what that will be, or are you giving yourself a beat to kind of just figure things out a little bit? And obviously you got a lot of personal stuff going on, but do you have any inclination right now to pick up the guitar and write other stuff for other projects?
Not right now. But man, I have so many ideas for like new projects or bands or records or whatever that have like backed up. Um, I've had an idea for a while, just a really, really good band name, but it would have to
Okay.
be like a super heavy band. I'm almost envisioning something like His Hero Is Gone type
Yes.
stuff, or
Incredible
like
band.
tragedy. Yeah, something along those lines, maybe with some like New Orleans sludgy stuff and some death metal type stuff.
Hell
So
yeah.
that's an idea I've had for a long time. And I got some people that would be involved with that. My wife wants me to do like a proper solo record, which I've been wanting to do for a long time,
Ooh.
which would be more kind of the other side of my favorite stuff, which is like old country,
Mm.
psychedelic rock from like the sick Pink Floyd and Gene Clark, and even like Rocky Erickson and stuff
Hell
like
yeah.
that, folk music, all that kind of stuff. Neon Nightmare, I definitely gonna make another, at least one more record with Neon Nightmare. I enjoy doing that so much that I
That record
can't ever
rules,
see.
dude. It's so good.
Thank you. Yeah, people seem to like it. I just had such a good time like trying to get into the mind of one of my favorite songwriters, you know, and really like go deep, deep, deep into those influences, and almost yeah, almost like Bruce Wayne becoming Batman, or like just becoming a different person for a minute. It
Yes.
was like really fun and really fulfilling. So I have I don't know that I have any songs like finished for the next Neon Nightmare record, but I have like several that are in the works. Uh, so yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna. I don't even have a choice, man. I could never stop playing music, even if I like wanted to quit completely playing music. There's no way that I ever could.
Yeah. Hell yeah. That's exactly what I want to hear as a fan, because I think it would be an incredibly diminished world if you weren't creating art and putting that out for people to enjoy like myself. So I
That means a
will.
lot, man. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, dude. Thank you so much. I will have links in the show description for people to listen to Infinite Illumination, to purchase the record, whatever vinyl and kind of physical copies and stuff are left. I'll have all of that in the show description for people. Nate, this is going to be the end of the main show, but I have some questions for you for the Patreon for people who support the show. So we're going to go over and do a little bit of Patreon stuff in a little bit, but I just want to say thanks for coming on the show.
Of course, anytime, man.
Hello, Owen popping in to say, please sign up for the TPD Patreon. This is what helps us keep the lights on and keep the show going. The link is at the bottom of your screen right now, patreon.com/tpdpod. All of our patrons get exclusive access to Side B of our roundup episodes, so you get a few extra tracks, as well as our feature album discussion and the full show experience. Our patrons also get exclusive access to behind-the-scenes, off-the-cuff chit-chat from all of our guest episodes. But the patrons are the ones who make all of this happen. For as little as $5 a month, you can sign up to the TPD Patreon, and it really helps us out, really helps us keep the show going. So shout out to all of our patrons, shout out to our executive producer patrons, you're the real ones, and yeah, thank you so much for watching the show.